I recently had the chance to jump into the playtest for Stars Reach, a sandbox science fantasy MMO RPG that's aiming for something massive, a fully alive game world. Instead of following a scripted questline, you are dropped into a living galaxy where you explore planets that you can colonize, exploit, or restore. What really sets this apart is something they call a true sandbox interaction. We're talking full physics-based simulation. You can mine, freeze, burn, or literally tunnel through mountains to reshape the environment. And the world reacts to it. This includes living ecosystems with seasons and weather, a player-driven economy built around crafting and trade, and total freedom. There's no rigid classes, just skill-based progression across combat and professions. This is a first impressions video. This is a quick surface-level look at the game through my preferences and playstyle. I spent about 3 hours getting the feel for the graphics, movement, combat, and just overall vibe. This is not a long-term review, and this is not a recommendation. I'm just answering a much simpler question. Do I want to log back in? Also, this is an alpha build. Everything you're seeing is subject to change. Okay, the story setup. The intro sets up a high-stakes reset scenario for humanity with a slightly ominous undertone. It's very much a we survived, but something is off situation. You're given 3 philosophical paths for how to respond to this, which likely shape your character, but I wasn't able to fully confirm how much that actually impacts gameplay. From there, you move into a character selection screen. Right now, you're choosing from a preset male or female template across 4 races. You have the Terrans, which are your standard humans, the Squatchy, which are kind of like a Sasquatch orc-adjacent race. You've got the Gurton, which is a devil or demon-inspired race. And then you have the Eleoni, which are dog-like creatures referred to as good boys. I did initially think the Eleoni were a cat race, but that's on me. I have a known bias. Customization is very limited at the moment. You're basically scrolling through preset models at something called an identity kiosk. It's clearly under development. Also, the game does have a bit of a Star Trek problem, where all the aliens just kind of feel like modified humans. I generally don't play humans, and I really don't enjoy playing humanoid animals, but this is a space game, so I'm going to have to come to terms with the fact that dwarves are not an option here. Visually, the game leans hard into retro, futuristic, 1970s Star Trek aesthetic. There's bold colors, clean lines, slightly theatrical presentation. It's very optimistic sci-fi. My human character showed up in a mini skirt and go-go boots, which feels less like space exploration and more like cocktails at 7. But we're gonna roll with it. Then there's the tutorial experience. If it's your first time, you're dropped into a tutorial planet. I actually liked this part. It was very thorough without being overwhelming. Just enough structure to understand the tools and the systems. I did spend about 2 hours here, but that was mostly because I got stuck on one quest and refused to admit it. Realistically, I think most people will probably get through it in under an hour. Let's talk about this UI. The UI is a really strong fit for the setting. It actually feels like it exists in this world. It's not just layered on top like its sole purpose is basic functionality. The panels have that soft sci-fi translucency, buttons glow just enough to feel interactive, and everything looks like it belongs on an actual control console. Even something like the identity kiosk, it's not a menu, it's a device. It just blends instead of sitting on top, which makes everything feel really intentional. It's less game UI and more like ship interface. Honestly, it blends in so well, I feel like I should be qualified to operate it, which is concerning for everyone involved. Okay, let's talk about combat. This is where things started to fall apart for me personally. It's very action-oriented, focused on movement, timing, positioning, all those things I actively avoid. So naturally, I hated it. I cannot do Twitch-based combat. I don't know if it's an accessibility issue or if I've just got a reserved seat on the struggle bus. But anything that relies on fast reflexes and muscle memory is not going to go well for me. That said, there are systems in place to help. You can spec into things like homing projectiles or area of effect abilities, which may reduce the need for precision aiming. I don't know if that fully solves the issue, but I do appreciate that they're thinking about different playstyles. Also, combat doesn't seem to be the main focus here. The core gameplay loop leans much more into exploration, crafting, and building. Which brings us to terraforming. One thing I've never experienced in an MMO is terraforming like this. This is probably the game's biggest differentiator. The world isn't static. You can actually reshape it. You can dig, tunnel, and carve through mountains, and you have to respect the physics of it, or things will collapse on you. That alone is genuinely a very unique experience. There's also settlement building. Settlements will just build directly on top of your terraforming. So once you reshape the land, you can build cities, and the terrain you create actually determines how those settlements function. I did not get to experience this in my playtest, but it feels like a major pillar of this game. One system I really appreciated is how progression works. Stars Reach leans into a learning by doing philosophy, but with a twist. You only gain experience when what you're doing is actually useful. So instead of grinding the same mob for hours, you are leveling through meaningful actions, either for yourself or for the community. For example, I gained experience through xenobiology, which was just scanning alien plants and creatures. And then you also get passive experience when other players access the data you've collected. I did mineralogy, which I used extractors to gather minerals and gases. And of course, the terraforming, when you reshape the land, whether you're repairing a planet or aggressively redecorating it, you get experience. And those are just a few paths. There are a lot of different ways to progress that don't involve combat at all, which for me is a very welcome design choice. All right, let's talk alts. The one thing that's usually really important to me in an MMO is alts. I like having multiple characters, mostly for content creation, but also for role-playing, and honestly, I just have different moods. Stars Reach handles this a little differently. Because of its skill-based progression system, a single character can actually learn everything. You can just respec by letting certain skills atrophy while building up others, so you're never locked into one role. You could go from being a Terran explorer to a master crafter on the same character without losing your progress or social standing, which means the need for alts is actually much lower than in traditional MMOs. With that said, I still want them. I do, please. In a game where you can restore or destroy entire worlds, there's something appealing about having different characters to explore both sides of that. So naturally, I made 4. There also look to be additional character slots available, so if you are an alt enjoyer, you are not locked out of that playstyle. Okay, next I want to cover space movement. Movement changes completely once you leave the planet. On the ground, you're still tethered to the terrain, even when you're climbing or digging, but in space, everything unlocks. You're moving in full 3D. You can go up, down, you can approach things from any angle. It adds a real sense of scale to everything. You can fly under stations, over structures. It makes the world feel significantly larger. It was also very cool. If I had to compare this game to something, it would be No Man's Sky. You've got exploration, base building, resource systems, and very unique worlds. But Stars Reach leans more into MMO systems. That said, I didn't really interact with other players. I saw them, but I didn't need them. This feels like a game where you're mostly doing your own thing, with optional social hubs. I could see something like a central spaceport acting as a gathering place, but the moment-to-moment gameplay feels pretty solo-driven. So overall, I think Stars Reach is doing something genuinely interesting. The sandbox systems, the terraforming, the idea that the world actually reacts to you, those are not small features. That's the kind of foundation that can carry a game for a long time if it's done well. For me personally, I don't naturally gravitate towards space games. And I don't love action combat. But I really appreciate that the game gives you meaningful ways to progress without relying on it. So even though I can see what it's trying to do, and I do think it's good, I don't know if it's for me. But if you enjoy open-ended sandbox experiences, exploration building, and shaping a world instead of just walking through it, this might be something worth keeping an eye on. As for me, the question is always the same. Do I want to log back in? I think I might, but maybe not for the combat. Until next time, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next world. I knew that girl was dressed for the club.